In this video, we will look at everything you need to know about part 2 of the IELTS speaking exam. I will also give you some tips, tricks, and some example questions so you can prepare for this exam. So let's begin. Now, part 2 of the IELTS speaking exam is often referred to as the long term, and most people say that this section is the most difficult part of the speaking exam. And that's because in this section, there's no back and forth between you and the examiner. Rather, the examiner takes a step back and you speak anywhere between 1 and 2 minutes without stopping. Now, we will break things down in this video. So first we will look at the content, what things will be included in the exam, how long this part of the exam lasts for, the number of questions you should expect, what your main focus should be on in this section, and I will also give you my personal advice on how you should prepare for this exam. And as a bonus, I will answer the questions myself towards the end of the video, so make sure you stick around. Now let's begin with the content. Part 2 of the IELTS speaking exam will purely focus on describing something. Now, you might be asked to describe a person, an object, an event, an activity, or a favorite something. For example, a favorite movie or a favorite sport. Now, I will talk about this in a bit more detail later on, but before we do that, let's talk about the duration of this part of the exam. So the length of the time you will actually speak will vary anywhere between 1 to 2 minutes. Now, the way it usually works is like this. So the examiner will give you a card. Now, on this card, there will be a specific theme. The theme will be one of the aspects we mentioned earlier. Now, in addition to the theme, there will be a few questions that you can answer. The way it will work is that you will be given 60 seconds to make notes about the theme and the questions. Once those 60 seconds are over, the examiner will ask you to speak, and then when you speak, you are expected to speak anywhere between 1 to 2 minutes without stopping. Now, just on a side point, my advice would be to speak for the whole 2 minutes. Once your 2 minutes is over, the examiner will stop you. But don't be discouraged if the examiner stops you. That's actually a good thing. That means you've spoken for the full duration. Now, I will give you some advice later on how you can work your way towards speaking for 2 minutes with confidence. Now let's move on to the next section, and that's the number of questions. Well, on the card that's given to you, there's usually around 4 or 5 questions. However, it is very important for you to know that you do not need to answer every single question. In fact, even if you do answer those questions, you don't need to answer them in order, okay? So you can kind of pick and choose what you answer and when you answer. The main point of this part of the exam is that you stick to the theme that has been given to you. Now, here's my advice. When you are given the card with the set of questions, when you're making your notes in the 60 seconds, don't try to answer all of those questions in full sentences. Rather, it is better for you just to make a few bullet points and just write 1 or 2 words per bullet point. That way you'll be able to make lots of bullet points, and also when your 60 seconds is over, you can just look at one bullet point and speak naturally and fluently about that specific point. If you, however, write out the full answer in your 60 seconds for each one of the questions, firstly, you might not have enough time to do that anyway. Secondly, when you do read off your sheet, your note sheets, in the speaking time, you might stutter or you might not sound that confident because you're reading from a sheet. That's why it is better for you to just have a few points and then look at the points and then speak to the examiner. That will make it more fluent, and it will also make you feel more confident. This might be worth you practicing well in advance before your actual speaking exam. So by the time it's your exam, you know exactly how to make quick bullet points. Now, the focus of this section of the speaking exam is mainly fluency. However, your vocabulary is also important. Now, on a side note, that does not mean you need to use sophisticated words or long words or difficult words, especially if you've never used them before or if you don't know how to use them. In fact, if you use a difficult word, and you've used it in the wrong context, you might actually lose marks. Therefore, always stick to words that you are comfortable with, and if you do want to practice long or lengthy words, it is better again to do that in advance. Now let's look at how you can answer this question. Well, the simplest way to answer the questions is just to stick to the questions that have already been given to you. Then make 1 or 2 bullet points for each question. And when your 60 seconds is over, you can just look at your bullet points and elaborate on each bullet point. It also might help for you to add a story in or an example when you are speaking. This will make it more likely for you to speak at length. It is also important to note that you will not lose marks if you do not answer every single question. Remember, you're not getting judged on the quantity, rather it is the quality. It is the information that you give. For example, it is better for you to answer 2 questions in great detail as opposed to answering all 5 questions with just 1-word answers. Now, how can you prepare for this section? Well, try to revise all 6 themes that I presented at the start: place, person, object, an event, an activity, or a favorite something. Now, what you want to do is for each of those aspects, try to speak for 4 minutes without stopping. It doesn't matter if you don't know what to say, or if it's unclear, or if it doesn't even make sense. Just try to speak for 4 minutes, just to get comfortable. Once you've spoken for 4 minutes, then speak again about the exact same topic for 3 minutes. Okay, once you've done that, do the exact same for 2. Now, what this will do is that it will clarify your speech and it will make everything you say more fluent and precise. Once you've done this for one of the aspects, do the same thing again for the second aspect. So, for example, if you've described a person for 4 minutes and then 3 minutes and then 2, move on to an object and then do the same thing for that.